and usually the back four is a diamond, so that everything kind of molds together in the end. It's complicated, but that's why they put me on the outsides, because I could run. And then as I got even better, I became the inside midfielders. And then as I got recruited to better and better teams, they put me as center mid, usually as a paired unit, two center mids, or by myself as center mid. So I moved from kind of the worst position to one of the most important positions on the field. So
you had a pretty logical progression forward as you practiced more. You could almost say.
Yeah, definitely. Because I never had a super hard kick, and I could never really. I wasn't a striker, and I don't have the speed, but I could continuously run for 90 minutes, and my passing was my forte, as you might say. I could pass very well, so that's why the center mid as a distributor was a good position for me.
Now, you mentioned that you got recruited to better and better clubs as you played. How did that work for you? How did that process work, and where did this sort of lead you in terms of playing? For example, you said you played around the Ottawa area, so maybe kind of elaborate like where you got to play with those teams as well. So
originally, since I lived in Beachburg, which is a town of 800, there was two places I could play. One being in Pembroke, which is around 20 minutes away, and one in Opeongo, being around half an hour away. Since most of my friends ended up playing for Opeongo, no, that's not true. The first year I played in Pembroke, but since most of my friends were in Opeongo, my parents took me to Opeongo the next year so I could be more social with my friends from school, primary school. And then, so I stayed in Opeongo for around 3 or 4 years, but they didn't have a well-developed program. There was a select traveling team, but that's about it. You only got to play a couple of games a season with this traveling team. And then I went to Pembroke after I kind of cut ties with my friends and would rather play competitive soccer, good soccer, than the poor soccer we were playing there. So we went to Pembroke, and then there the first year I didn't play competitive, but the second year I tried out for, I guess my dad just enrolled me in it. He probably asked me if I wanted to, but I don't remember. And then I tried out for a competitive indoor team. And most of the guys were a year or two older than me and a lot bigger than me. And they had been playing together for around 3 years already. At this age was a long time. I sneaked onto the team. I was probably one of the worst players. But we had a tournament which involved teams from the States and Toronto. And these guys were doing diving headers and bicycle kicks and amazing stuff. We were very outclassed. We ended the tournament with goals for and goals against, where we had 2 goals for and something like 14 goals against.
Oh, wow.
But the great thing about it was I scored both our goals.
Nice.
So from there on, I was like part of the team now instead of just the outsider with all the other guys. So that was very nice. And then from Pembroke, I stayed there for around 6 or 7 years. And I was one of the guys at that point, and we let other people on the team, obviously. But I gained the center mid position. And actually, the coaching was the same for all those years until the final 2 years when my dad took over. And we were in a tournament, and after the game, the other coach came over and talked to my dad, and he was from not Canada, but somewhere in that region, and they actually recruited me to that team, and I went because instead of just playing tournaments, which the Pembroke team did, they actually had a regular season against all the other Ottawa teams.
Oh, okay.
So that was interesting that I actually got to play a regular season for the first time in my life.
Oh, wow. And
train properly and with a coach that actually had goals and like an aim for training instead of just like, here's a ball, kick it on the net. so proper training for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
And then that was really nice, actually, to finally
Yeah.
be on a decent team and be recruited and right off the bat, you were an important role. And I remember the coach saying, all right, this is Ben. He can pass. We need him. And when he passes, make sure you get to that ball. He'll kick it ahead of you, not where you are. So you better run on to it. So that was the first thing I heard. So from that point, if I screwed up, I was in trouble. So it was nice to finally be on a very competitive team.
Mm-hmm. So you almost had a leadership role, you could say, on that team.
I started at not a leadership role, but I was definitely very quickly thrust into one. And you can see some of the guys were goofing off, which is fine. But once it came to the actual game, I was one of the leaders, yeah.
And as of right now, you have gone to Brock University for a sport management bachelor degree, and now you're pursuing your graduate studies. Do you feel that soccer has helped take you to this level as like in a love of sports, would you say? Or would you say that other things have influenced your decisions other than your interest in soccer?
I'd say soccer has developed my love of sports, definitely. I always loved watching TSN and the highlights and sports, but I never actually followed a single team very intensely or even a league very intensely. So I'd say rather than most people who say, I love baseball, I know all the stats about baseball, blah, 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 that's why I want to go in sport management. I don't know why I took sport management. I just thought I don't need math. I don't need any science. I need an 80 in English. That's the program for me.
Yeah.
And I love sports, so I really
it's
don't know.
It's sort of a good fit then almost for you?
It's a good fit. It's the only program I applied to.
Oh, yeah?
You paid for 3 and I only applied to 1, so.
And you got in, and it seems like you've had some success, so.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it immensely.
That's good. And just to wrap up here with one final question, I know you've mentioned some of your more fonder memories of playing soccer, but is there anything in particular that a memory or two that really stick out from playing soccer?
I've got 2. They're not in tie. I don't think that I can rank them, but the first one would be in my early days of playing soccer at Opeongo, would be when my dad was actually coach of that team too, which was the house league team, and we were losing horribly in the final game of the season. But since it was like under 7 or under 8 or 10 or something, it didn't really matter. So my dad, we already had 11 players on the field, which is the normal team. He started slowly slipping players onto the field without, I don't know if the ref noticed or not, but by the end of the game, we had 16 players on the field and they had 11, and they were still beating us. But I always thought it was funny that he was just like, whatever, go play. So it was always for fun. That was the great thing. It was always for fun. And even though he scolded me when I did bad plays and said you're not working hard enough, he never took it too seriously, which was nice. And the other one was when I was playing for the Pembroke select team. And at halftime, I actually threw up because I forget what it was, something on my sub that I was allergic to, and I threw up, and then after half, I deked out the whole team from the center. I just took it all myself, deked out the whole team on the left side, and put it bottom right corner on the goalie, and then we started again, and in like 20 seconds, I had another goal where I chipped it over the goalie from like 30 yards out, and then my third goal, I deked out the whole team again. And I've never done anything comparable since, and I've never deked out a whole team again, but that was one of my defining soccer moments. And then my coach, I don't know if he was trying to be nice to me or not, but he put me in nets after that, just for the rest of the game because we were winning 3-0. It didn't really make sense, but he did it anyway, and we were all very confused.
Well, it seems like you had a lot of fun playing soccer. You know, learned a lot and helped you progress forward. And I'd just like to thank you for coming out and helping me with this interview.
You're welcome.